let me share with you why starting a business can absolutely change your life. I've been asked this question many times over the years, specifically as it relates to my business. And I want to share with you why starting a business can change your life and to help you be able to determine if you should start a business or maybe you shouldn't. I will provide you with some of my story. I know many of you know, some of you know my story, some of you don't know my story. And so I hope that what I share with you is actually going to help you on your journey, especially if you are at the point in your career where you're thinking about maybe starting your own business and you're maybe a little nervous, you're not sure if you should do it or if you shouldn't do it. So I'll share with you very candidly what's happened to me personally, and hopefully it will help you on your journey. Now, if you are a woman in leadership, you are welcome to reach out to me for support. My target audience, in terms of who I work with specifically in a one on one setting with clients, is women in leadership. However, my content is based off of leadership also. And so I have a lot of men in leadership that are followers on my channel as well. So this is really for anyone. Client base, I work with women in leadership, but if you are at that point in your journey where whether you're a woman in leadership, a man in leadership, where you're really thinking about, well, what should I do? Should I start a business? Should I not? Then this is a great place for you just to have a conversation. If you have any questions for me specifically as it relates to maybe my journey, I'll share a bit of my journey with you today. And any other insights that you may have, feel free to let me know. I'll be here to support you any way that I can. I appreciate all of you, women and men in leadership, being a part of my channel, a part of my growth, a part of a very big transition and a big move in my life to do something a bit different and be able to impact more people. So I appreciate each and every one of you, even if you're not in my direct one-on-one audience that I work with. This is really why I'm here. I'm here really to support all of you. My role and mission on this earth is to help you communicate at a higher level than your peers so that when you are in your businesses, you're in other organizations and etc., that you stand out from everybody else as a leader and you're the person that people inspire to be like by the way you communicate. I truly believe that people become great by how they communicate. So my role here is to really try to unlock the greatness within you. So let me know how I can support you. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. This is a live video, so if you're watching this portion of it, you may be watching the replay. And if you are, just give me just a few moments to say hello to everyone and check in with them. And then we'll get started in terms of why business owning a business can change your life. And I want to know from you, how many of you own your business or you're thinking about it? So we have Sky Flyler Zane. Welcome, welcome. Hoping you are doing fantastically well today. Kelly Mason, welcome, welcome, friend. How you doing today? And Anna Luzette Bahia Viana. Oh, well, hello, hello. Hola, welcome, welcome. Gwen Campany. Hello, hello. Let me know where y'all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today. This is a topic where we're just talking about how starting a business can really change your life. And if this is something that maybe you've thought about potentially doing in your career, and you're not quite sure, should you do it, should you not do it, I'll share with you what happened to me, excuse me, personally. And hopefully it will guide you in some point, some way, shape, or form as you are thinking about this very, very big decision. And so I appreciate you. So Ana Luzette Bahia Vianas from Brazil, Brazilian. Okay, well, welcome, welcome. Glad you are here today, friend. Let me know if y'all have any questions as it relates to this topic. I'll share with you a little bit about my journey in terms of how I got to where I am right now and answer any questions that you have. This is definitely more of a very much of a story type of video. I do want you all to learn more about me. I've been asked this question several times, and I felt like it's probably a good time for me to at least say hello and give you all some insight in terms of why potentially, if you decide you want to start your own business, how it can truly change your life if this is something that is right for you. So I can't say it's right for everybody, but I can tell you a little bit about my story in terms of why this came up for me. This was asked to me earlier today by a client of mine, and I said, you know what, I haven't really shared my story, so I'll talk a little bit more about it today, just for a few minutes, just so you have an idea in terms of, wow, how did I get to where I am right now. So let me look in the chat. Forensic Accountant, welcome back. Hey, Forensic Accountant, hope you're doing well today. I hope everything is going well for you and you're having an amazing weekend. Appreciate you being back, Forensic Accountant. I actually just mentioned you in an earlier live in terms of topics, in terms of next topics coming up, because you had a really great topic yesterday that I'm going to talk about for sure. So appreciate you being here, friend, and appreciate your support. And let me know if you have any questions about anything. So one of the things that comes up a lot of times when people are trying to figure out, do they want to start a business? Do they not want to start a business? And why should they or why not? So many times people are worried. There's something that is just happening in their lives that's making them think maybe where I'm at is not really where I'm meant to be. And so I'll share with you personally what happened to me. So in 2020, I was working in a very high level role, and the structure that we did at that time was somewhat commission based, but for some reason when the pandemic happened, no one wanted to give anybody commissions even if you work for them. So I found myself in that situation because at that time I was a W-2 employee. And so that was the first time I'd actually seen a scenario where you could actually work and be owed money for extra work that you've done, and you just could have that money just withdrew or withheld from you. And it put a really bad taste in my mouth, so to speak. I did not like it at all. And I decided that there has to be something better for me. There has to be something better for me to do. So before I go into specifically how I decided to go on this journey, let me see what's going on in the chat because I saw something pop up. Axel Guzman, welcome, welcome, friend. How you doing today? And Anna Luzette Bahia Viana, what is your name? Okay, well, thank you for asking. My name is Dr. Jacinta Lamantai. I am here on YouTube. I have a business called Excite Excellence Incorporated, and I'm an executive coach where I'm really here to help as many leaders as I can go to that next level in terms of how they communicate. I deal more with the more complicated situations that come up in terms of communication wise. I deal with the hard things. So if you have any questions specifically, feel free to let me know. My specific audience that I work with in terms of one-on-one clients or women in leadership. But on my YouTube channel, I have a lot of amazing women in leadership, men in leadership, like forensic accountant. He's here today. He gives some really great insights on my lives. And I had IXO Multic, which is another subscriber of mine, my previous lives. So I appreciate you all being here, men and women alike, because I want us to have more leaders in the world today that are able to really deal with these very challenging, complex situations and communicate in a way to where it makes sense, where you can show your charisma and really showcase how you are the person that people want to inspire to be like. All right, and Axel Guzman says, good name. Well, thank you, Axel. I appreciate you so much for that comment. So I mentioned to you that I had a bit of an issue, right? I was working as a W-2 employee. I worked hard. I did a bit of extra work, and even though I was owed that money, it was going to be withheld from me because of COVID, and everybody was freezing their funds, so to speak. They weren't giving out more money than what they need to. And I just thought to myself, this isn't quite right. I actually already worked for this money. And so I decided that maybe there's something better for me to do. David Garcia Aldana, welcome back, friend. How you doing today? Welcome back. And David Garcia Aldana says, hello, how are you? I'm doing fantastically well, friend. Still under the weather, though. My voice is not the same. Hopefully, we'll go back to where it's supposed to be. And David Garcia Aldana is from Mexico. All right, fantastic. Well, welcome, friend. Glad you're here. Glad you're back. I know you've been here a couple of times on my channel. So, what did I decide to do? I decided that, maybe there's something that I can do differently outside of my field. So at that time, I was practicing as a dentist. And so I just felt like maybe there's something else I can do, not necessarily outside of dentistry. I love dentistry. However, I knew that over the years, I started to develop different skill sets in different areas of my life outside of dentistry. And so, my first question to you, if you are thinking about possibly starting your own business, is what are you really, really good at? What are you exceptional at that people talk to you about and ask your guidance for all of the time? So I found for me over the years, over 20 years or so, I am always asked questions on how to manage really hard situations, difficult situations where you're having to terminate employees or you're having to have a very, very hard conversation with someone that's uncomfortable. I'm typically the person people reach out to. So I said, well, how can I utilize my skill set to really help people in a way that can help them maybe manage how to have these conversations or develop some type of framework to do so. And so I thought more about, well, what can I do? How can I help? So I looked into different career paths or different other career paths that might be able to help supplement me at that particular time in my life during COVID, when everybody was freezing funds everywhere and they were not paying employees sometimes, and they were in, difficult situations. So I ended up deciding that coaching was something that I wanted to go into. After I did a bit of research first, I already knew I was going to be a public speaker. I've been a public speaker for over 20 years. So I knew that's something that was a skill set that I wanted to use. But then I learned about being an executive coach, and I decided that this is something I wanted to look into. So I looked into coaching, I enrolled into a coaching program, and I started to really develop my skill set as an executive coach, really helping people be able to go to that next level in their careers. And that's really what coaching is all about. So my next question, my next statement I would say to you is that we first talked about, are you at a point where something's going on that you need to make a change? What are you really, really good at? And then the third question is, are you really cut out for this? Because when you're trying to start a business or get started with your business, it can sometimes be very, very difficult to do. And especially it's difficult when you're trying to do this and work a 9 to 5, as we say here in the States, or you're working a full-time job at the same time. It is incredibly hard, friends. It is hard. I can't say, did I say it was hard? It's hard. It is very, very hard to do. And there comes a point in time where you have to just either love what you're doing or you don't. And even though ultimately we all have to make a living, we all have to be able to take care of our families and etc., you have to be past that. Like, the money is important, but the money can't be that important. Does that make sense? You have to really love what you're doing. Like, for instance, I can sit here and talk to you all night long about leadership, communication, executive presence, difficult conversation, etc. But my voice, my body, my voice will not allow me to do it. It will not allow me to do it. Tomorrow, I will probably be my voice will be tired, and on top of me having a cold. But I literally could do this all night long. Like, I would do it if I could. And this is because this is a passion of mine, something I really, really, really enjoy, and something I love being able to help other people like yourself be able to communicate at that higher level and stand out from everybody else. So there's days when you have your businesses, if you're starting your business as a side business initially, you're going to have days, and then let me say, not to say specifically say days, you may have months, you may have years where you're not making income in your business. And you're wondering, well, what's the point of me doing this? I'm not making money. It's not working. I don't know what to do. Well, I encourage you, if you have decided that you want to start your own business, you should just go for it and continue to go for it. The title of this video is how, why starting a business can change your life. And it can, because if you find yourself in a situation where there's something intuitively that says, I can do better, I can do better, then this will change your life. Because so many people get stuck in the box of, they just want to be an employee, and there's nothing wrong with being an employee. There's some people that this is what they want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to have employees just like we have to have business owners. But I found that if you're at a place where you really want to be in a situation where you have a bit more control over your life, a bit more control over your circumstances and your income, then having a business can really change your life. Because sometimes when you're working as an employee, it makes it very, very difficult for you to take time off, if you have to take time off for your family or for your kids and etc. I experienced that. I have kids, so I know exactly what that looks like when people say, why are you taking time off? And you're saying, my kid's sick. So I understand it. And it makes it really hard. It makes it really hard. It's stressful. You feel like you just don't have that control. And so I found when I started to make that change into entrepreneurship, that it allowed me to have a bit more freedom in my schedule, where I could do a lot more things while I'm in that transition. But it's hard, friends. I will tell you, it's not easy. You're going to have days when you want to just quit and you don't want to move forward, but ultimately you can do it. but you have to keep it going and you have to keep things going. And so I'll share with you one other thing really quickly, and then I'm going to go into the chat in just a second. But I'll share with you, there's one thing that I'm doing now that is a bit different, that you, if you're ready to go to that next level in your business, is something you might want to think about if you're struggling initially, because most of the time you're trying to get leads, you're trying to see exactly how can you support people and be able to grow your business and grow your revenue. Because if you can't do any of that, it makes it very difficult for you to help people. You do have to have money to help other people. You have to basically buy yourself time. I could record YouTube videos probably all day on multiple topics, but I didn't have really the time to do it. So I'll go into that in just a second, but let me see. I saw something pop up in the chat. Okay, Forensic Accountant says, you're my imaginary space partner. Okay, also fantastic. Well, that sounds very good. Absolutely. Spades is a very fun game. I've not played spades since I was, I believe, I mean, I'm going to say middle school, high school. That's a long time ago now. But that's very cool. I appreciate you saying that, friend. Thank you so much. So, one of the things, if you're thinking about starting your business and you're worried about, well, how am I going to do it? A lot of times what I find people do is that they try to start everything online, because everything is online now, right? It's online based. Well, let me tell you, online is great, and there's a lot you have to do to try to be able to grow your business online. However, what I encourage you all to do, and what I've started to do also that I've found that has been successful for me, is think about your local communities too. Maybe there's schools you can partner with or you can support in your area. Maybe you can do a couple things as it relates to advertisement that may not necessarily cost you a ton of money initially to start, because if you're starting your business, most of the time you may not have that capital just yet, especially if you're doing your business on the side and you're not full time in your business. It can be very, very challenging for you to be able to spend a lot of money on ads like Google ads and etc. I've done Google ads, and those things are, they can be expensive. If you've done LinkedIn ads can be very expensive. I think they're probably the most expensive advertisement on social media, period. So if you want to do LinkedIn ads, just make sure you have your funds ready for that, for sure. I personally have not done those because I don't see the ROI in it just yet. But I would say look into your local communities, because not only you being able to put yourself out locally will help you grow your business, but it helps you to make that big impact in the community that you're actually serving at the time. And that is something that can change your life too, because you're not only helping people online, but you're helping people locally in your community too. So specifically, if you partner with a school or sponsor a school, which is something I'm looking into doing, it allows you to be able to help other people and help parents maybe and help children that are particularly maybe growing or developing their skill set depending on what service it is that you offer. So I encourage you to not only look into just being online. I did solely online for a very long time, and it's been okay for me, but I'm branching into more local because I'm more stable, more grounded here in the sunshine state of Florida. And I am at a place where I'm ready to do a lot more of a bigger impact on the community while I'm doing things globally here on YouTube. So keep that in mind. You're going to have those days where you're just not quite sure, but I just wanted to share with you, if you're thinking about maybe having a business, it can change your life not only by helping you to have a bit more flexibility in your schedule, but of course, you got to make sure you have your revenue coming in so you can take care of your bills, take care of your family, but then you can also make a bigger impact on your local community and make a bigger footprint depending on what you're trying to do in your world, in your state, and be known for something. So that is a strategy that I personally have adopted on my end. I wish I would have done this earlier, but of course life happens, things happen. Sometimes we may not be in that ideal situation where we want to be. Maybe you're not in that right location where you know, like, this is home, this is where I'm going to be. Sometimes, especially as leaders, we might be in a bit of a transition and we're not quite sure exactly where home is going to be. Maybe we're looking for another job, we're looking for another opportunity. Sometimes it's about timing, right? So I know for me personally, my timing was off a bit, and so now my timing is, I'm where I need to be. I'm not leaving Florida no time soon. So this is Florida. The home is that has been my home for a while, but specifically where I am, based out of South Florida, this is home for forever for the most part. So it's something, sometimes it does depend on timing, but just know that even if you're in the in between time period, You can still do things online with your business and grow it that way while you are getting yourself settled to being in a good place where you want to be as it relates to your specific area. So just know that you can do a mix of both. Both of them will work. And I encourage you to really think about that if you're thinking about starting your business so that you can start being able to generate more revenue and then be able to be in a position where you can help other people. Now, one of the things that I'm actually doing now, and I'm going to share with y'all as soon as I get the design approved for it, is I'm wrapping my car. So there's a specific wrap I'm putting on my vehicle that advertises for my business specifically. So it's just there's little things out there you can do when you are starting your business so that doesn't make it so hard, because people really struggle with how am I able to attract clients, like how can they find me and etc. And if you are more of a service-based business like myself, it can be very discouraging when you're trying to start your business and you're not quite sure, well, how can I get people to notice me? If you're struggling online and then you decide, well, maybe I want to do something locally, I would put something on your vehicle. Honestly, that's what personally what I'm doing. I plan on having my wrap done within the next couple weeks. Hopefully next week or the following week. I'll definitely send you pictures of my vehicle and get your insight too. There's a couple things I'm changing on it, so that's the only reason why I haven't showed it to you all yet, and get your thoughts on it too. But that's something I would encourage you to do, is if you're trying to do more visibility and you're just trying to figure out, should I spend ads, should I not? I would say if you have a decent vehicle, put a wrap on your vehicle. Pay a company to put a wrap on your vehicle. I have a company that's a nationwide company that's doing my wrap. If it comes out really good and it's well and it looks everything is like it should be, I will advertise who they are. If it doesn't, I will advertise who they are so I can make sure that you all don't use them. But I'm hoping things work. I think it's going to work out really well. But it's that wrapping your vehicle, believe it or not, the investment is not, depending on who you work with, it is actually worth you having that visibility locally compared to doing ads. And I'm just being honest with you, because ads can cost a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with ads, but you have to build up your revenue in your business to get to the point where you can put out the money for ads. So how can you do that? You have to start somewhere. And I found that wrapping your vehicle is probably a good place to start, especially if you're trying to do a little bit more locally as it relates to your business and going forward. So I'm hoping that this helps you. I know some of you did ask, well, I did have a client ask me, like, how did you start with your business? So what ended up happening for me? So I told you that my funds were withheld during COVID. I did ultimately receive those funds, but it was delayed. And I just knew that I needed to have more control over my life at that time. Where at that time I only had just the one stream of income, and it was tough. You know, of course, when you've worked for something, you're not being compensated for it. It happens to it's many of us, depending on your roles, if you're commission based or etc. That's why people stay in the W-2 world sometimes, because it's a little bit easier to have guaranteed income where you don't have to worry about the flexibilities that may happen sometimes. But sometimes as a W-2, it can be very challenging depending on your organization, how things are going, and etc. I had a conversation with a client a couple of days ago where my client mentioned that the company she's working for was going through a lot of changes very, very quickly. And so it just depends. You know, if you feel like you have something in you that you can share with the world that truly can help other people and make a big impact, then maybe think about a business. And if you ever have any questions or you want to just chat about it, I'll be happy to chat with you and talk to you about it. Regardless of where you're on your journey, this is a question or something I put out there for any of my audience, whether you're a man or a woman, because this is something that people sometimes are just not sure, like, should I do it? Should I not do it? I don't know the path to do it. I'm not quite sure. And so I'd be happy to support you on your journey any way that I can, because I know this is a big decision. If you're even thinking about possibly starting your own business, this is a huge decision that you're trying to make in your life. And so I know the pros, the cons, and the struggles that really do come with it. Of course, on my end, I've been doing a lot more on YouTube and being present on YouTube. That's a whole separate world. That's a lot that goes into it. It's not necessarily something that you do and you just say, I want to start a YouTube channel today. There's a lot more that goes into it, friends. A lot that you have to deal with. You have to deal with the managing the algorithm, and sometimes you'll have really amazing discussions that you have. For instance, I've had IXL Multic and Sanelli Maluka, forensic accountant, pro BTC. And gosh, there's so many other Colton Armendariz. I've had so many other people, and David Garcia Aldana has been on a couple times. So I've had a lot of really great conversations. But some of you don't get to see the conversations that are not so great. And so I mentioned to my audience a couple weeks ago, what I'm going to do is put those videos together when I've had people maybe say something that wasn't necessarily nice, and I'll put them in a separate playlist on my YouTube channel because I plan on hiring somebody to help me with this, and I'll put those there, executive presence in action, because it's sometimes I'm sharing with you how do you manage these complicated situations and these very very tough conversations and complicated issues that happen in terms of how you communicate it, and sometimes you have to see it in real action. I've had people say some very offensive things here on YouTube, believe it or not, that I had to report, but ultimately you still have to be able to conduct yourself as a professional even if you're on YouTube. So there's a lot that goes into it, friends. It's a lot, but if you have something that you have a message inside of you want to share, then YouTube is an amazing place for you to do it. You just have to be prepared for friendlies and unfriendlies. That's how I say it. You have to be prepared for both, because you could simply interact with both at the same time, and you just want to be ready for it. But it's a great opportunity. You don't necessarily have to have a YouTube channel to have a business. It doesn't work like that necessarily. That was just my personal choice because I have no problem being on camera. But some people don't do that. And you don't have to. You can just have your own business and be able to do your business locally, do your business online, have your social media. You don't have to have a YouTube channel, but that is an avenue that you could consider if you're thinking about doing it. For instance, on my business side, as something else I've mentioned to you all that I'm launching hopefully by the end of this year is a podcast. So the podcast is specifically going to be having conversations with people that are in leadership roles. This is going to be specifically for men and women that have been in leadership roles that have some insight on maybe some challenges that they face as it relates to communication, so I can share it with my audiences on some strategies that they can use to help them when they go through those challenges, because leaders go through a lot of issues. We go through experience a lot that people don't think about, and sometimes you just don't have a book that says this is what you should do if someone says this to you. There's no book out there that says that. You may learn guidance, but a lot of times you have to learn in those real world strategies, real world situations that happen that sometimes people don't really talk about that much. So I appreciate you all being here today. This is my third live today, I believe. Third live. One of them did not go well because the audio went out, unfortunately, but I appreciate you all for being here. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. As I mentioned to you before, Tuesday through Friday, I go live. Friday nights, I have a bit more time doing lives. And if you have any questions or any interesting topics that you want to learn more about, let me know in the comments below. And I'll be happy to do a video just for you and give you a shout out. I've done that many times on my channel, and I really want to be able to help you all. But let me know how I can help you. And I will definitely put some videos together. I do have a couple videos planned. There's a few leaders that you all have sent me that you want to have reviewed in terms of how they're communicating. What are some techniques and strategies they're doing to help be more motivational or more charismatic when they're communicating to their audiences, so that you can use those same strategies to help you be more charismatic in your audiences as well. So let me know some leaders. I have a couple leaders already, but please make sure that you let me know who you want me to review. And I'll do this will be more of a pre-recorded video just for you. That's something I'll do when I get my studio set up and all that. So hopefully that will be toward the end of this year. It might be sooner. So I'll let you know. Okay, let me look in the chat. Something came up. Okay, so Forensic Accountant said, wow. Well, thank you, Forensic Accountant. I appreciate you. And Forensic Accountant said, is it rude to ask your boss whether they have a succession plan? Is it rude to ask if they have a succession plan? Hmm. That's a really very, very good question. So I would say first, let's let's ask the question, why do you want to know their succession plan? And so the reason I say why do you want to know their succession plan, because that helps to determine how we ask these type of questions. Now, and it depends on where your boss is at, like what's going on to make you want to ask. Succession plans are really truly mandatory. You really, really, really need to know. And this is something that if you're in an organization and they do not have a succession plan, this is an organization that is not truly being strategic. They're not, because you have to have a succession plan. This is just a part of running a business. So let me see. Forensic accountant says people die often unexpectedly. Yes, and that's it's interesting that you mentioned that because I just had a conversation with someone earlier that mentioned something like someone has suddenly passed away and they didn't expect it. And so it's not rude to ask for a succession plan if they have one. I the way I would ask, it's the way you ask it. I think that's the that's the way to do it. There's a certain way you ask questions like that because some bosses, if they're really good bosses, then they'll appreciate the dialogue. Some bosses may take it as offense, and I'm just being quite candid with you. There's people out there that would take offense to anything, but to ask a question about your succession plan, I would lead it in the following. I would say there's so many changes that are going on within the world, and I've noticed that some really great organizations like ours, maybe, have a pretty good strategic plan. So I was curious to know, do you have any insights about the succession plan for our organization in the event something happens to a leader so that we all can prepare accordingly and start really training our teams or our employees or however you want to say it to get into those roles if there was some type of disruption that happened. That would be how I would say it. And so I think that's a it's a nice way to say, do you have a succession plan? But there's a way you go about it. If you say it more in the form of how can we build everybody and your intent, if you really want longevity in your organization, your intent should ultimately be to train and to educate your employees or people that are in different levels or maybe lower level positions or doing different roles, you want them to be at a higher level. Any manager that's a good manager that cares should want their employees really to grow with them. And so if you have a succession plan, then at least from your perspective for as an accountant, that you have an idea as to, okay, if something happens to boss number one, then boss number two is in boss number one spot, and then boss number three is in boss number two spot, and then wherever you fall, you might be boss number one. I'm not sure, but wherever you fall in, at least you know everybody's either moving up or people are going to be moving in different roles. But there should be some succession plan, and I would say if your organization doesn't have one, this is something that they absolutely want to start working on because this is a requirement. This is definitely a requirement. And I know a lot of people have talked about it a lot more, especially well, I know they talked about it years when I was a C-suite executive, but especially with the individual that unfortunately was shot at United Healthcare, their CEO, I believe it was, you have to have some kind of plan in place. So I think it's appropriate to ask. It says a lot about you, forensic accountant, as a leader to even ask a question like that because most people would not even know what you're talking about unless you've been at that higher level. So I just commend you for that because you're thinking in more strategic ways to say, what can we do to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success? So that would be very, very helpful. That's how I would ask it. I would ask it in a way to say, let's make sure we are continually pouring into our employees, pouring into our teams to make sure they are at the place or getting to the place where they're starting to become just more well versed in their skill set or they're starting to develop more to get them ready if something were to happen in a succession plan, if you had to start your succession plan unexpectedly, as you mentioned, because a lot of times people they're caught off guard with that. They're caught off guard when there's a tragedy that happens and you are looking to just fill in holes quickly. And sometimes when people do that, it's out of emotion because typically if there's a succession, either someone has passed away as it was mentioned, or maybe someone was terminated or they resigned, and if there's no succession plan in place, then it makes it very hard to navigate it. And a lot of times people will make decisions about succession plans in the middle of a succession, and there's a lot of emotion that goes into it because you're not sure, well, what happened, oh my gosh, what we're going to do, who we're going to put in these roles, and it cannot make the best decision. It's better to make decisions, hard decisions like that. It's the same thing that I've had to do when I've had to do, layoffs, rifts, and all those things. You have to make those decisions when those situations are not happening at the time, because that's when you can do it when the emotions are out. And you can, at least when that happens, okay, like I don't want to do this, but this is the plan that I had in place. Okay, so forensic account says the last thing you want is an entire team jockeying for position. Yes, that is true, because that's exactly what will happen if there is not a succession plan. Forensic account. That is very, very true. And that in itself just causes, it causes a lot of a lot of discourse, a lot of people getting frustrated because maybe they are not where they need to be or not in the role they want to be in. And I think it's a great question. It really is. It says a lot about you. Of course, you're amazing. You talked about a lot of wonderful insights here. And so it says a lot about you. And I believe if you have that conversation with your boss, it shows the depth that you have as a leader, and that you're able to have a very heightened level of foresight in terms of looking in terms of the future. As I mentioned, a lot of people don't even think about succession plans. Even managers, even managers, directors, C suites, senior VPs, succession plans are something that people just it's like a topic that people want to talk about, but they say, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Why? Because it's a topic that is a very serious topic that you have to really think about. What happens if something happens to this person? If they leave, if something unfortunately happens to them health wise and they're not able to be in the role, what happens? And so oftentimes I found, even as leaders, people avoid those hard conversations, forensic accounting, because they just don't want to have them. Sometimes people don't want to take their mind there to even think about a succession. So if you ask your boss in a way that says, I want to make sure that my team is prepared and that we are helping them reach whatever professional milestones we want them to be at, to help them elevate in the event there was a succession, then this is what I want to know. Do we have a plan? Is there a plan? Can you share the plan, first of all? Because it depending on where you are role wise, they may share the succession plan, they may not. I don't know, but it's worthwhile asking, because it's really a good. It puts you in a just a very elevated position as a leader to be able to really manage very complicated situations, because as I mentioned, most people don't do it. Even if there are C suites and senior level executives, they don't think about succession plans, because it's not a topic that people want to talk about, if that makes sense. It's more complicated. People don't want to think about people not being in roles and etc. And I've just seen how succession plans are done, especially when they are not completed or thought about ahead of time. I've seen the emotions come in, and people make very, very, very emotional decisions that are horrible decisions, and ultimately the company suffers for it at some point in time. So something to think about, in mind. And it's just the way you plan as a leader. This is what we do on the channel. And I think that is a really fantastic topic that you brought up in terms of having a succession plan, because it's important. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And that's a really great insight for everybody that's either watching now or watching the replay, to really think about that. What's your succession plan in terms of how you want to handle things, especially even as a business owner? So even as business owners, there has to be some succession plan if your business is at the point where you have that much growth. If you're just starting out, it's a little bit harder for you to do, because you're just starting out, and most likely is just you by yourself doing everything. But when you start building a team and etc., you do have to start to develop that succession plan in terms of how you want things to work and etc. So forensic accounting, once again, fantastic topic, friend, and I really appreciate you bringing that to the channel today, because a lot of people need to think about succession plans because they don't talk about it too much. So I appreciate you all being present and watching either the live or watching the replay today. And I hope that you all have an absolutely amazing weekend. I will see you all next week for some more lives. I will let you know about wrapping on my vehicle and let you know what that looks like. I have two vehicles, but I'm only doing one right now. So I'll let you all know what that looks like for now. And let me know your thoughts so I can see if I want to move forward with it, or if you think I might want to change it, because it's specifically related to my business. That's what I'm doing. As I mentioned to you earlier, if I'm telling you what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. I'm not sharing with you something I saw online. I'm actually in the trenches every day working on a business, trying to grow, just like everybody else. That's an entrepreneur. So hope you all have a great day. And Forensic Accountant says, rest well. You too, friend. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.